It is June 8th, 2024, and you are listening to Sports Chowder with me, Sam Stebbins. Today I'm talking Game 1 of the NBA Finals, Drake May's progress at Patriots organized team activities, and more. Well, on Thursday night the Celtics won, and it was beautiful. The final score was 107-89. We really stomped the Mavericks in Game 1, and it's a really great start. I'm really excited about that. Now, of course, the most notable thing about Game 1 is that Kristaps Porzingis was finally back in the lineup, and he really had a great game. He had 20 points, 18 of which were in the first half, as well as 6 rebounds and 3 blocks. Our other key players also had solid games, I would say. Jaylen Brown had 22 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. Tatum had 16 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. Al Horford had 10 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. Jrue Holiday had 12 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. And Derek White had 15 points, 2 rebounds, and 5 assists. Now, Dallas's two big stars had very different games. Luka Doncic had 30 points, and our old friend Kyrie Irving was held to only 12 points. And I have to give credit to two things for Kyrie's lack of scoring success. Now, the first thing is just Kyrie's mental state every time he comes back to play in Boston. I think something happens where he just does not have the same amount of production as he normally does. I'm not sure if it's him feeling guilty about how he left Boston, or if he's, being bothered by the fans. I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it really gets to him. And he has a losing streak at TD Garden, and again, NBA Finals Game 1 was no exception. Now, number 2, and more specifically to Thursday night, was our own defense. We really did a good job preventing him from scoring and keeping the Mavericks checked. I mean, really only once in the game did Dallas come close to having a lead. That was in the third quarter, and then we came back to have a comfortable lead by the end of the game. So, really a great night for Boston. I'm really proud of us. I'm proud that we started strong, because that's really important, especially in the NBA Finals, to come out with confidence and come out prepared to win. Now, I will say, Tatum was lower scoring than he normally is, and he was only 6 for 16 from the floor, but the Mavs defense was really all over him. They were shutting him down, and, that's okay. Everyone else stepped up. They did what they had to do. Kristaps Porzingis took some of the scoring pressure off of Jason, so overall it didn't really affect our game all that much, and I'm sure in later games in this series, Tatum will have more success with offensive production. So yeah, overall just a really successful start to the NBA Finals for Boston, and I'll be honest, I was feeling a little bit emotional during the first half. Because there really is a difference when you're on the biggest stage of basketball. I love seeing them win in the regular season. I love seeing them dominate the postseason up until now. But once you're actually in the NBA Finals, it just feels different. It's, the final round. It's the championship round. The stakes are high. And to see our guys on the court succeeding the way they did last night, is amazing. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Game 2 on Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time in Boston. I hope we have another big home win so we have that lead. You know what? I'm going to say it. Celtics in 4. I think we can do it. I think this is our year. Let's dominate. Let's just shut the critics up, because we are the best and everyone else can just deal with it. Now, a more general Celtics story is that Al Horford turned 38 this week. And now, in the grand scheme of life, that's still very young, but for professional sports, that is getting up there. He's the oldest guy on our team by a good margin, and he's been in the NBA for a while. And that's great. That's why I love him. I love his experience. I love how many different Celtics he's played with, but I also hope he takes care of himself. And I saw this story, and I really love it. Apparently, Al Horford consulted Tom Brady and his trainer Alex Guerrero on tips for staying healthy when you're an older athlete and for just general injury prevention advice. Now, Al did not execute TB12's methods exactly, but he did take some of the advice and personalize it for himself. Honestly, I love this. I know Alex Guerrero is somewhat controversial, perhaps for some good reasons, but the TB12 method worked for Tom Brady and it's worked for other people. I think, it's not perfect. It's not a one-size-fits-all option for athletes, but for the people that can use it, it's a great thing. So I really think it's cool that Al Horford consulted a legend, and I hope we can say it was a part of what helped him win his first championship. So good for you, Al. You take care of yourself, and by doing that, you help the team. You are the man. Now, a more general NBA story is that the broadcast rights drama may not be over. In fact, it may not be over until the ink is on the contract. It looks like TNT may find a way to retain some rights to NBA games. Now, as I mentioned in a previous episode of this show, it has been reported that the NBA is dividing their TV rights for the next contract into 3 packages. One for ESPN, which contains the most games, as well as the NBA Finals, one for NBC, and one for Amazon Prime. It has been reported by Front Office Sports that TNT's parent company, Warner Bros. Discovery, appears to be making a last-ditch effort to carve out a 4th package of games with the NBA. Now, how is this even possible? Well, for one thing, the hypothetical 4th package would be much smaller and less expensive than the other 3 packages. And while it might retain some playoff games, it would not be substantial. Now, one method of setting aside some games for TNT in this possible package would be taking some games which would normally only be on local TV and reassigning them as national games. Now, obviously, if this works out, the biggest benefit would be saving the Emmy-winning studio show Inside the NBA with Shaq, Charles Barkley, Ernie Johnson, and Kenny Smith. Now, one reason both the NBA and Warner Bros. Discovery might end up making this happen is that it would save them some face. Obviously, ever since the rumors broke out that Inside the NBA could end, people have been very upset. And if they can say, oh, we did the work and we saved Inside the NBA, people would give both the NBA and Warner Bros. Discovery credit, and that is something both could use right now. Now, I have argued in the past that NBC or Amazon Prime could simply hire Charles Barkley, Shaq, and Kenny for a studio show that would be much like Inside the NBA. Ernie Johnson would not join in this scenario because he said he will not leave Turner Sports. And there was even a report recently that Charles Barkley could hire Shaq and Kenny through his production company and with that company create a studio show for one of these media outlets. Now, there is something to saving Inside the NBA. For one thing, obviously, you get to keep Ernie Johnson, and that would be great. But also, Inside the NBA has a rich legacy. It has won 19 sports Emmys, and it's been on for almost 35 years. And in this day and age, with so much media upheaval, there really is something to saving a beloved TV sports institution. So I really hope this works out. I would love to keep Inside the NBA. I love TNT's broadcasting of the games too. So I hope this happens. And ideally, the 3 contracts with ESPN, NBC, and Amazon Prime go through, as well as a 4th contract with TNT, so that we get both Inside the NBA and the return of the NBA on NBC. And I trust NBC to make a good product. I think they have a solid sports division. And above all, I love the NBA on NBC theme song, Round Ball Rock, composed by John Tesh. And while I was not alive in the 1990s, when I hear Round Ball Rock, it just seems like the theme song of the Michael Jordan era. We'll have to wait and see, but I really hope that Inside the NBA is saved, and when this new contract goes into effect, we enter an era of the NBA on TV that both honors the past and embraces the future. Moving on to the Patriots, we have some Drake Maye updates from organized team activities. Patriots offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt had this to say on Tuesday when he was asked about the timeline for Drake Maye starting. Quote, "I think of it as a marathon over a sprint. You just don't go out and run a marathon. You have to train properly for a marathon. It's the same with a quarterback. There's a process and we follow that process. We trust that process. And then you can't just stick a guy out there and expect him to be successful without the proper training. So it's a process. We're making moves in the right direction." Unquote. I honestly think Van Pelt and the other coaching staff members have the right idea. I really want Drake Maye to grow and earn his spot as the starting quarterback. Now, I used to think that maybe we should keep whichever quarterback we drafted on the bench for up to the entire season. But I actually think it's a matter of Drake's performance at practices and preseason games. Each week, the coaching staff, I hope, will look at where Drake Maye is in the process and decide if he should start or not. There's no right answer, there's no perfect timeline, but we shouldn't just bench someone for the sake of benching them, nor should we start them just because we ought to start them. Two things matter: Drake as an individual and Drake as he relates to the needs of the New England Patriots. Whenever Drake is ready and the team needs a new quarterback, we will start him. Until then, Jacoby is our de facto starting quarterback. Now, Drake Maye is making progress at organized team activities. For the last few weeks, Drake Maye has been third on the quarterback depth chart, below Brissett and Bailey Zappi. But on Tuesday, Maye moved up to second, behind only Jacoby. And again, this is the momentum I like to see. Drake is putting in the work, and I have faith that he will be ready fairly soon. Maybe not week 1, but I think he will be the starter by the end of this upcoming season. Van Pelt also said that Drake Maye has done really well with footwork changes to better align with the Patriots' playbook. Again, this was in a scouting report that he was good at making changes when he had to, so I really think we made a good pick at number 3. I think Drake Maye has so much potential. This is the very beginning, and I don't want to overanalyze, this early OTA progress and these comments by Van Pelt, but again, it's worth looking at because he was a very high draft pick, and if he is going to be our starting quarterback pretty soon, it's good to look at him. It's good to see how he's already putting in the necessary work to succeed as a Patriot. So it's interesting to see how he's been developing and to see what's happening up in Foxborough. Now, another Patriots-related story is that ESPN's analytics department released their first Football Power Index ranking for the next NFL season, and the Patriots are 31st, just above the last place Carolina Panthers. Now, these models also projected the Patriots to have the best chance of landing the number 1 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. Honestly, I understand why they do this. Usually I'm glad for these kind of rankings, but really the headline, Patriots projected to get first pick in next draft, is just noise, and it's stupid noise. There have been so many changes in this offseason, as we all know, and there are so many untested variables here, We have an entirely new coaching staff. We have possibly a new franchise quarterback in the making. We have other newly drafted players and newly signed players. The Patriots will look different. These projections have no way of showing what this team will really look like. They don't know what Coach Mayo will be like as a head coach. They don't know what Drake May looks like starting in an NFL game. So really, it's just a dumb headline. I understand why they do it, but I don't believe it. Of course, I'm not saying the Patriots are going to have some epic season and win the AFC East. That probably won't happen. Of course, I'd always welcome that, but I don't think this is the year for that. However, I do see our offense being young and hungry this year. I think we're going to be better than most people think, and I think we'll have some pretty fun upset wins. I really am feeling optimistic. I believe we're going to have some forward momentum this year. And yeah, of course, having the number 1 pick would be nice for a rebuilding team, but we had our crappy season that ended with a high draft pick last year. It was a bummer, we made the best of it, but we're done with that. This team, the players and the coaches, have to show that they were worth bringing into Foxborough, that they were worth the hire, that they were worth drafting, that they were worth signing. They're not going to crash and burn, because frankly, they cannot afford to. Moving on to a more general NFL story, a few weeks ago, the city of London, England, re-elected their mayor, Sadiq Khan. Now, during his re-election campaign, he stated a couple of sports-related goals. One of them was to bring the Olympics back to London in 2040, and the other was to bring a Super Bowl to London. Now, obviously, since 2007, the NFL has played at least one game in that city every year, with the exception of 2020 during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I get why a Super Bowl in London would feel like a logical extension of this partnership. However, what I always get stuck on when I try to envision this is the fact that London is 5 hours ahead of Eastern Time and 8 hours ahead of Pacific Time, which is obviously a pretty significant time difference. The Super Bowl usually kicks off at 6:30 p.m. on the East Coast, which would be 11:30 p.m. in London. Now, the people who say this could happen argue you could move kickoff to 4 p.m. Eastern, which would be 9 p.m. in London. Still, I really think having the game at 6:30 Eastern is the perfect slot for the Super Bowl. It really means that the game hits dinner time across the lower 48 states. And I really believe that Little Caesars, Uber Eats, and all the other food sponsors of the NFL appreciate that, you know? They spend a few $1 million to sponsor the league and a few more $1 million to have a commercial on the Super Bowl. I think those brands like having the game on at dinner time. It's just the prime time for overeating. In theory, you could do it at lunchtime, but I really think it's in a sweet spot right now. Now, that's just my pet theory. There may be nothing to that. However, Roger Goodell was in London back in October, and he attended a fan forum, and somebody asked him if a London Super Bowl would be possible. Goodell basically said it's not impossible, but the NFL prefers having host cities who have their own football team. So a London Super Bowl may not be happening anytime soon, but I do think they could have a Pro Bowl game. You know, no one cares about the Pro Bowl, people say, but having it in London would make it more of an event, and you might have more players show up and be enthusiastic because they're in a different country and they're playing to a global audience. But who knows? We'll see. Maybe London will get a Super Bowl if they renovate some stadiums, throw some money at it. Who knows? You know, the one thing that can change the mind of sports teams and sports leagues is public money going into their game. So we'll see what happens. It'll be very interesting. Now a quick Red Sox update. This week they tied a 2-game series with the Atlanta Braves. They lost 8-3 on Tuesday, but they won 9-0 on Wednesday. Rafael Devers had 2 home runs that game, which is really awesome. Now, last night, meaning Thursday, they started a series with the White Sox with a huge 14-3 win, and they handed the White Sox their franchise record 14th straight loss. The series continues through Sunday, and who knows, maybe the Red Sox will sweep them. It would be really nice this year to sweep a 4-game series, even if the team is terrible, you know? A sweep is a sweep, wins are wins. I will take what I can get this year. And now, Assorted Awesome, where I talk about a story that is 100% awesome with no caveats. The beloved GOAT of football, Tom Brady, narrated a Celtics hype video ahead of Game 1 on Thursday, and I have to say it is pretty epic. I would try to describe it here. I might even play an audio clip from the video, but really, you need the visual element, so I recommend all of my listeners to go onto YouTube or Instagram or Twitter and find the video. It's awesome. It got me hyped up, and I really appreciate Tom Brady doing this for his former home. Now, I'm not sure if Tom did this out of love for Boston or hatred of Dallas because of the Cowboys. Either way, it's awesome and much appreciated. Thank you, Tom. That is all I have for this week of Sports Chowder. You can follow me on X at StebbensTweets. You can follow the show at sports_chowder. You can follow the show on Instagram at SportsChowder and like it on Facebook. Thank you all for listening. It means so much to me. I will return next week with more Sports Chowder.